Hello and welcome back to Scout Report, where today we're running the rule over the three sides promoted to the Premier League to see if they have the minerals to stay in the top flight. With coronavirus hitting clubs hard, it's difficult to bring in reinforcements, making this a nightmare summer for Leeds, West Brom and Fulham. Let's see how they're doing so far. West Brom. On the face of it, West Brom look the healthiest of these clubs heading into 2020-21. The Championship often sees teams run up huge wage bills against fairly poor earnings, as clubs demoted from the Prem are forced to pay their stars top-flight wages on second-tier income, while others spend big on expensive loan deals or short-term contracts to try and push themselves into the promotion spots. That's inevitable given the riches on offer in the Prem, but West Brom, largely thanks to the 8 years they spent in the top division, have resisted the urge to leverage themselves in the same way. Last year, only Hull and Rotherham spent a lower percentage of their income on wages than the Baggies, and in fact, they were one of just 7 Championship sides to make more than they spent, a worrying trend for the league as a whole. But WBA's solid financial base should serve them well in the long term, whether they can stay up or not, and their underlying metrics suggest they have a reasonable shot at re-establishing themselves in the Premier League. Last year, expected goals rated the club's defence as the third best in the Champ, only behind Leeds and Brentford, and their attack was second best in the league behind Bielsa's side. Overall, they created roughly 0.5 more expected goals a game than they conceded, but slightly worryingly, their two top scorers were Charlie Austin and Hal Robson-Kanu, who both got 10 but are 31 and more likely to see their game decline than improve. They've also lost Grady Diangana, who returns to West Ham after a stellar loan spell saw him bag 14 goal involvements in 23 starts. The 22-year-old was one of the team's key ball progressors, averaging 3.5 dribbles a game, as many as the second and third best dribblers in the squad put together, and at 22, he was one of their younger attackers. However, Slaven Bilic has pulled off a coup in the permanent signing of Matheus Pereira from Sporting CP, who was clearly the side's best player in 2019-20. At 24, Pereira is hitting his peak, and he was one of the Championship's outstanding forwards last year, scoring 8 and assisting a league-high 16 goals from a number 10 role. Freed to push up and support the striker in Bilic's 4-2-3-1 formation, Pereira ranked 13th in the division for shots per game and 2nd for chances created, with over 3 of each, while 1.7 dribbles also makes him a one-on-one threat teams can't discount. West Brom pushed their fullbacks up to give Pereira passing options, and those positions look strong too, with Connor Townsend on the left and the departure of Nathan Ferguson for Crystal Palace offset by the excellent showings of 21-year-old Irish right-back Dara O'Shea. However, this aggressive style means the Baggies probably need more protection for centre-backs Semi Ajayi and Kyle Bartley, who boast just 21 Premier League appearances between them, despite both coming through the ranks at Arsenal. Centre mids remain Sawyers and Jake Livermore, who sit deep in Bilic's system, nonetheless produce only 5 tackles and interceptions combined per 90 minutes, about as many as one good DM would. And if West Brom want a shot at staying up, upgrading this zone as well as the centre forward spot would be the best way to give themselves a fighting chance. We predict they'll battle Palace and Newcastle to stay in the division. Leeds. After falling out of the promotion spots in the final weeks of the 2018-19 campaign, Leeds put together an even more dominant season in 1920 to come top of the division. According to expected goals, Marcelo Bielsa's side was both the best attacking and defensive team in the Championship, averaging around 2 XG a game and just 0.8 against. Better metrics than Real Madrid put up in La Liga on their way to the title. The team's consistency also allays the old concern about Bielsa's tendency to tire out players, as with 2 excellent 46-game seasons behind them, it's harder to imagine the 38-game Premier League season posing a particular difficulty. On the other hand, Leeds are unlikely to be able to play the same way once they make the step up. Over the last few seasons, the promoted sides which have enjoyed the greatest success, Wolves and Sheffield United, have been ones playing a flexible style which doesn't require them to have the ball all the time, with Wolves averaging 53% possession in the season they came up and the Blades having 52% the year after. Leeds, on the other hand, have averaged 62% possession over the last 2 years, and if they struggle to replicate that when they come up against better coaches and players, they could find themselves chasing shadows and incapable of imposing themselves on games. In the second tier, they've also been able to push up the field and squeeze the opposition by playing a high defensive line, with no side catching opponents offside more than Leeds 2.6 per game. But when it's Salah, Sterling and Aubameyang running in behind, that's a strategy which could see them caught out, so don't be surprised if they catch a few beatings from the better sides. However, there is reason to think they could adapt well to the Prem's high-speed style. As this chart shows, Bielsa has got the team employing his signature high press. And the early indicators are good that this can persist at the highest level. When the Peacocks played Arsenal in the FA Cup back in January, they pressed the Gunners off the park in the first half, and it was only in the second period that the Londoners were able to pull away. Having gone away to the Emirates, Leeds left with 58% of the ball and more shots. Of course, they'll need more quality to do that on a consistent basis, especially given that, as StatsBomb have noted, 8 of the 14 players to feature in Bielsa's first match in charge, having finished 13th the season before, also played 2,000 minutes in 2019-20. But again, things look positive, with the capture of Rodrigo from Valencia under the club's belt already. The Spaniard has put up over 0.6 expected goals per 90 in 4 of the last 5 seasons, has averaged over 15 goal involvements a campaign in the last 3, and was accustomed to pressing high under Marcelino, routinely closing down opponents roughly 20 times a game. If he can replicate those numbers under Bielsa, he should help power the Yorkshire side into a comfortable mid-table finish. Fulham. We're not going to lie, we're worried about Fulham. Of the 18 players who got more than 2,000 minutes under Scott Parker in 2019-20, 9 were relegated with them in 2018-19, while others, like Harry Arter, Anthony Knockaert, Michael Hector and Harrison Reed, were relegated with other teams or deemed not good enough for the top flight by their parent clubs. That suggests a lack of elite quality in the squad, and the underlying numbers fail to paint a rosier picture. They registered only the 7th most goals in the Championship, despite the presence of top scorer Alexander Mitrovic, and while their 48 goals conceded ranked 4th in the league, expected goals suggest they got lucky in defence, rating the Cottagers as just the 10th best defensive side. With that in mind, they could probably do with upgrading both centre-back and the middle of the park, and have spent the window so far attempting to make Harrison Reed's loan from Southampton permanent. The versatile Englishman was a solid presence in midfield, winning possession over 4 times a game, while Josh Onoma added similar defensive output, as well as an impressive ball-moving ability, with 1.8 dribbles per 90. However, the smart move would be to bring back Andre Frank Zambo Anguissa as a starter, with the Cameroonian excelling on loan at Villarreal. Still just 24, Anguissa put up better defensive numbers than Reed or Onoma, while ranking 4th among midfielders in Europe for dribbles completed per game, with an insane 3 at an 88% success rate. He's also a strong passer, with almost 70% of his long balls finding their target, compared to Onoma's 65% and Reed's 53%. At a cost of £0, he's a no-brainer, and would allow Fulham to spend more in attack. That'll be vital, as after Mitrovic, the best goal contributors in the squad were Cavallero on 13 and Kearney on 11, and that's in a season 8 games longer than the Premier League and facing inferior defences. Mitro had a hand in 42% of their goals, and while he has shown goal-scoring ability at the top level, he'll need support. So fans can be encouraged by the team's pursuit of Calum Wilson and especially Ollie Watkins, who would add the versatile attacking threat the squad needs. Able to play up front or on the wing, Watkins has hit over 3 shots, 3.5 dribbles and 2.5 key passes per game at various points in the last 3 campaigns, bettering anyone currently at Fulham in the latter 2 categories. And with him and Mitrovic in the front line, Scott Parker would have a pair of forwards at his disposal who scored 52 league goals between them last season. The young coach is also moving to strengthen his fullback slots, with Anthony Robinson brought in from Wigan and Nottingham Forest's Matty Cash on his shopping list too. But even with significant additions, Fulham have a tough year ahead of them. Just like with West Brom, 17th would represent a great result. So that's our assessment of the 3 sides promoted to the Premier League this season, but what do you think? Who's going to stay up and who will go down? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to never miss a video. We'll see you next time.